This video is sponsored by Skillshare. The first 1,000 people to sign up with the link in the description will get 1 month of free access to thousands of courses.
I'm sorry we didn't get to play with the man. My next guest is a very talented and funny comedian. He starred in his own series last season called The Duck Factory, which was seen right here on this very network. He will be appearing in person with Rodney Dangerfield at the Universal Amphitheater in Los Angeles on August 13th and 14th. Please welcome Jim Carrey.
Long before I knew The Weeknd, I knew Jim Carrey. I think a lot of us did. Jim Carrey is that fun-loving, multifaceted character that we all grew up with. His expressions are immaculate, and his range of character is phenomenal. To be honest, I couldn't name more than a few Jim Carrey movies in my younger age. I'm sure I've seen most of them, but one that I recurringly watch was The Grinch. Every single Christmas. From the makeup to the expressions, it was almost hard to tell that it was even him. But at the same time, we always knew that it was Jim Carrey because nobody can express like he does. It was only until a few years ago that I really started rewatching most of his bigger movies. The Mask, Eternal Sunshine, The Truman Show, and Ace Ventura. The roles were all so different, but to my surprise, they all did share a common ground, a mask. Jim Carrey grew up very close to me, about an hour away. He found himself putting on shows for family around him as early as 7 years old, which led to selling out comedy clubs in his 20s and ultimately finding himself in the 90s TV show Living Color, leading to roles of Ace Ventura, The Mask, and the iconic Dumb and Dumber. The issue with Jim is that he always had to put on a mask. Ever since he was 7 years old, he acted for his bedridden mother to make her laugh and ease off of the pain. He and his family also became homeless in his young age, sharing this trauma with The Weeknd, who experienced the same. But throughout all of this, he managed to put on a show, making others happy. He dropped out of school at the age of 16, and the rest of his career was history. Before looking at Jim Carrey's relation to Dawn FM, we have to look at the hints that The Weeknd gave us upon the release. Trilogy. To our surprise, The Weeknd announced that we are currently in a trilogy. My first idea was that this album is the beginning to a trilogy that The Weeknd has set out, but no, we're in the middle, or purgatory. When looking at the true colors of After Hours, we can see that The Weeknd is in a party-crazed chase to Hollywood. To the core, it's how stardom is not what they make it seem. Something that Jim wishes that he could show others, that the money, wealth, and fame will still leave you empty. In After Hours, The Weeknd doesn't realize this until it's too late. You can hear throughout the album his tension between giving into the monster that LA has made him and pulling back. This is especially heard through Escape from LA. I said it's too late because in the end he dies, bringing him to Dawn FM, the never-ending radio station of purgatory. He's here because it's where he's stripped of those characters, identities, or masks. Dawn FM is the stage of infinity, purgatory, the letting go of that mask or character and reaching nirvana with one's identity. Until then, he's in purgatory, with the station playing over and over. This track is the first time that Jim and Abel's worlds collide. Two totally separate lives that share many of the same experiences. Throughout each track, he is taken to a point in time to come in terms with his traumas, a similar concept to The Christmas Carol. We are first shown this in Gasoline, crashing the same car that he did in The Hills. He's shown fighting his own ego, his old self, and losing, proving the lack of acceptance that he's had for his true self. It shows his struggles with drug use and losing grip with the person who helps him cope with his drug use. It introduces us to two main themes of the album, and rather his career, drugs and heartbreak. This trickles into How Do I Make You Love Me and Take My Breath, which is riddled with metaphors. In the video, he gives into this girl at the club, and right when she has him, he becomes ragdolled into his last breath. Like stated before, purgatory is the place that he can come to terms with his past. This exact scene occurred in the After Hours short film. Being dragged is symbolic to being forced to look at his own demons. He has no choice. In Sacrifice, we're welcomed with Jim Carrey once again, stating that this will be a painless transition. It continues on with the old him and the struggle with metaphorically selling his soul, giving up everything for him to become the man he portrays in After Hours, the man that Hollywood has created him to be. A Tale by Quincy acts like a bridge for acceptance. which is a part of this transition that Jim Carrey states. Quincy and Abel both share the same trauma of growing up with only one parent. Quincy's other traumas clearly relate closely with how Abel feels as well. He concludes with "looking back as a bitch," in it, confirming the idea of him facing the past throughout these tracks. Quincy himself has been a big inspiration for The Weeknd, producing for both Frank Sinatra and Michael Jackson over a 70-year career. The second third of the album brings him deeper through his past, but with the new mind frame of acceptance. It's no longer a harsh experience. This is brought to us especially through the production. You'll hear a lighter and rather blissful sound within each track. Out of Time further alludes to this idea. The last few months I've been working on me, baby. There's been so much trauma in my life. He uses Out of Time to come to terms with his past relationship, realizing that in the end he was in the wrong. The next 4 tracks speak very heavily on his past relationships, with totally different scenarios. This reminds me of the Quincy track of not being able to fix the past, instead looking at relationships with the view of you'd rather love and lost with tears than never love at all. This is once again assisted with a rather uplifting set of production on the track. As he once advanced from friendships to relationships, he realizes how much this can hurt both of them. In Best Friends, he sees that he shouldn't take it any further, cause it'll get clumsy and tear apart, like it has in his past. The Weeknd has also referred to best friends as vices. She no longer needs those vices, as she now has him, the one who can fulfill any vice. Is There Someone Else looks at a relationship, but with confidence. He now knows what he wants. He alludes to his past by saying he used to be the one lying. He used to be a prisoner to himself through his lifestyle, specifically in Beauty Behind the Madness. This callback proves that he's shedding another mask throughout these songs. Lana and The Weeknd even states in the same song that they've been in Hollywood for too long. Their souls are burning slow. The final third of the album acts as a closing, acceptance, to the transition of becoming weightless of regret. In 1910, Rainer Maria Rilke began writing the Duino Elegies. The first verse of Every Angel is Terrifying quotes the first elegy directly. Each elegy expresses anguish. They philosophize and reach a kind of resolve. They speak from a posthumous world beyond our world, one from which we are separated by a membrane that is very thin. It took Rilke a decade to write these poems. Between then, he would be enlisted in the army, World War I, and suffer from both illness and depression. Rilke wrote these poems in the deepest form of trauma, only to conclude that our circumstances are temporary. He further concludes that finding consolidation in his fellow man, animals, and lovers does not bring him fulfillment. The only thing that can console him from this idea is music birthed from grief. The rest of this track teases afterlife, presumably the last stage and album after Purgatory, or Dawn FM. It acts as a teaser for the end of time. Once reaching acceptance in Dawn FM, they can move on to Afterlife, which promises to make your current life look like a total comatose snooze fest. In Don't Break My Heart, he lets go of that weight of his previous love for the last time and realizes how much the breakup did. He's confident that he doesn't want to go through the same breakup experience with anyone else moving forward because it'll bring out the old him. In I Heard You're Married, he can see way past the games being played, once again confidently knowing that he does not need her. He's learned from his traumas and realized he's way too grown for that deceiving, and that no, he can't be with her. Considering the heavy 80s inspiration, Less Than Zero likely pays homage to the 1985 novel with the same name. This was also made into a film in 1987. The plot follows a boy named Clay, who comes back for winter vacation to LA from Princeton. Every character is nihilistic and morally corrupt. The author gives us a glimpse into lifestyles of people who have everything and still constantly demand for more. The point of this novel is that Clay is participating in every part of the hedonistic lifestyle exemplified by Hollywood, until the very end where it takes such a sharp and dark turn that he really can't take it anymore. His older self visits the past in Dawn FM, just as Clay visited LA briefly for winter vacation. They both conclude that none of this was their true identity, and they both realize the disconnect from the masks that once surrounded them. Dawn FM is about reaching the pinnacle of a self-imposed purgatory, where he is met with acceptance, which is why the final track, Phantom Regret by Jim, is the perfect send-off. Heaven's for those who let go of regret. Once The Weeknd lets go of regret, it'll lead us to the final album of the trilogy, Afterlife. but you'll have to wait here if you're not weightless yet. The Weeknd recruited Jim on Dawn FM because they share many of the same struggles. They both went from rags to riches. They both came from Canada to an industry that placed others' identities and ideas over who they really are. Dawn FM is about finding oneself in acceptance, narrated by one of the greatest to overcome this feat, Jim Carrey. Acceptance is something that The Weeknd has finally found, but only time will tell how he'll bring an end to this trilogy. Now I want to hear from you guys. What's your favorite track off of Dawn FM? Also, let me know any theories that you have down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, guys.